In this video, I'm going to show you why the coaches who are winning right now in 2026 are not doing it because they're better at selling. They're doing it because they don't have to sell at all. They're doing all of the selling before their ideal client actually gets on a call. I actually had a client who came to me last year. I knew very little about him. I don't know, actually to this day, I don't know where he came from, but the thing that he told me really stuck with me. And it said, I knew you were the person to help me even before I knew what your offer was. And that was the moment that I understood what was actually possible. If your sales calls still feel like convincing and you're doing the heavy lifting and the people who are meeting you online cold can't feel your magic and all you're doing is trying to throw spaghetti at the wall with more and more content, this video is for you. So you probably do not have a sales problem. Like regardless of how well you sell, the reality is that we've traditionally built the online coaching sales model based on the fact that people find you online, they check you out. Hopefully they understand what you're about. Hopefully they are intrigued enough to follow you. Hopefully you hook them enough to make them actually stop and check you out. But once they do, we hope that they're going to remember who we are when we arrive in their inbox. We hope that when they see us, in their feed, they're going to remember who we are. They're going to pay attention. We hope that the viral hook is actually going to stick. And we're literally hoping the entire time. And then we also hope that they're going to get on a call. So once they get on that call, most of the time, what we're having to do is handle objections on the call. We're having to do the heavy lifting of building that trust right on the call. And so by the time they get on the call, the decision is not made at all. Interested, they're curious, they want to know more, but they still have a long ways to go. So the reality is that there is a trust gap between when people meet you and when they're ready to buy. And if you understand how to fill that trust gap exactly without having to throw spaghetti at the wall, without feeling the content treadmill with a million pieces of content, you are going to be a lot closer. In fact, so much so that me and my clients, a lot of us are not even doing sales calls anymore. When you understand how to fill the trust gap way before your client gets on a call with you or way before they even reach out. And the reality is that there's so much noise out there. We already know that, but there's also so many fake coaches, so many people who don't have the expertise that they claim to have, who maybe got results on a fluke. It's possible they had a fluke, or maybe they're even lying about the results. And they're now marketing their stuff, sometimes even copying other successful coaches and doing that to get more clients. So everyone's jaded. There's no trust in the marketplace as well. Every single thing that you do online should build upon that trust. And the reality is that most of us don't understand how to do that. A lot of people, I don't think anyone is teaching you how to do that. And we're just hoping it does that, right? So we're literally throwing spaghetti at the wall and not only hoping it sticks, hoping it's actually a decent meal after 2 weeks. So when you understand how to build trust in a very, very specific way, when you understand that you need to shift beliefs, you need to absolutely overcome their objections. You need to address exactly what you know is going on in their minds, the conversations that are happening in their minds, and the conversations that are happening underneath the surface that are not even being verbalized in their own heads. When you get that deep and you understand your perfect client at that deepest level, and you create specific pieces of content. We're talking about what I call a trust ecosystem. That is when you can get your perfect client already arriving pre-sold before the call. They feel it before they even book a call or reach out to you in the DMs. You can't logic her into changing her mind. They know what they want. And so most content doesn't do that. Most content does not fix a trust gap. Most content just fills the algorithm or fills the feed. And that's what we're told to do. We're literally told by so many gurus that we just need to produce volume, that we just need to show up regularly, that we just need to put it out there. And listen, I get that there's merit in that advice because it gets you going, but that is not a long-term strategy for growth. In fact, if you've been in business for a while, hopefully you don't have to get it going. You are doing it, but there comes a certain point in your business where you're like, this is not actually yielding results. I'm literally just feeding the feed because I'm told, I know I need to show up. There's so many people right now saying you're not a coach, you're actually a content creator, you're a media company. And in reality, volume works to a certain extent because when too many people have too much volume, that doesn't work either. All that does is create more noise. And so instead of fighting the volume fight, when you have strategic pieces of content that are actually moving the needle, that are actually addressing, like I said, that conversation that's happening in your prospect's mind, that is what is going to shift their beliefs. And that's what's going to get them pre-sold before they ever talk to you. So we hear a lot about like the 7-hour rule, which I think nowadays is more like 70-hour rule, where people need like 7 hours of immersion with you, of watching your stuff in order to buy from you. But the reality is if your stuff is not good, first of all, if your stuff is not good, they're not going to watch. So you're never going to get to that 7-hour mark. Second of all, it's not just about that. In fact, like I have time and time again clients that come to me that have not watched 7 hours of content. In fact, as of the time of this recording of this video, I don't think I even have 7 hours of content for people to watch. And yet somehow I have a successful business. And so the reality is that the volume game is played well by people who have massive marketing teams, who have massive amounts of time, and who want to play that game and who win at that game because of those things, right? The massive amounts of volume required to be a Hormozi or to be Tony Robbins or whatever other guru that you want to name that puts out a ton of content, that requires a team, that requires a lot of hours. And there is a way to bypass that. And so a pre-sale system is essentially understanding not just how to warm them up, but really how to build trust with them. And there are two parts of the pre-sale system that I teach inside of Pre-Sold, which is my core program. The first one, and it's the most important one, is that people need to believe in you. They need to trust you as their coach. They need to choose you. And there's all sorts of reasons and ways that we can understand why your perfect client chooses you. I go through this in so much depth inside my program, but in essence, it's really understanding how you can hit their trust triggers. So there are 4 trust triggers with every single transaction, if you will, when you are buying a coaching program, right? When your ideal client is looking for a guide in order to help them solve the unique problem that you solve. Which, by the way, it's actually usually not that unique. A lot of us solve the same problems, but we all have kind of, ideally, our unique way of doing it. The reality is when we market ourselves, we tend to rely a lot more on the uniqueness of our framework. And that is less and less important. The how is less and less important. The how becomes completely irrelevant when people trust you. They need to understand that you get them on an incredibly deep level. That's the conversation I was talking about. There's the conscious conversation inside their head. There's the conversation that they say out loud. There's the conscious conversation inside their head. And then there's the subconscious conversation inside their head. You need to be at that level or deeper. You need to be able to explain their problem in such an articulate way that they are blown away and they immediately, wow, if you understand my problem this well, you have the solution and I want to go with you. So that is one element of getting them to trust you. The second one is the second trust trigger, which is they need to know that you actually give a about them, that you really do care about them. You care about them wholeheartedly. This is not just about a transaction. That's number 2. Number 3 is they need to understand that you are the expert, that you get them on a deep level, that you care about them, but at the end of the day, that you've got their back and that you know what you're doing, that you have experience, that you do have that expertise. And unfortunately, a lot of our marketing kind of tends towards that. It tends towards the authority piece, which is important, but it's not everything. Like you can be the authority and I might not like you. And by the way, that's trust trigger number 4. Like I actually want to like you. Our values need to align. Our personalities need to align. Or at the very least, I need to be like, I don't hate this person. If you have all the other 3, people might still buy from you if they don't just like completely hate you. But you can get there, you can get to the sale a whole lot faster if your values do align, which means you have to show them what your values are. So the way that I teach inside my program Pre-Sold is that we focus on these 4 trust triggers in 2 different ways. So the first one, as I was saying, is like we have to get them sold on you. And the second one is shifting all of the beliefs that need to be shifted in order for them to actually be ready to buy. So I have had amazing success with my clients, just shifting that first belief of like, you're my person. I am ready to work with you. I don't even know what your offer is, but I understand that you can solve my problem and I like the way that you're doing it, and I like your pizzazz, your secret sauce. Like, I want to be in your orbit. That alone will move the needle incredibly in your business. Like, I'm talking, I had a 600% launch profit increase when I did this the right way, when I actually installed this system in my own business. I've had clients who have tripled their response rate to welcome sequences from cold audiences, responding, sharing their story, connecting with them. I've had clients say that when people do get on a sales call with them, they're already sold. They don't need to build trust inside of that call. They already just want to know, like, what are your programs? What can I buy? And so that is first and foremost, you need to build trust upon you and understand how to get them to actually choose you as the right person for them. And then the second part is shifting those beliefs. So the mechanism is kind of built on those two principles. So it's not more content, it's literally fewer pieces of content, but in the right places, telling the right story. So this is kind of the essence of it all. Is you need to understand not just what the belief is, but which story is actually going to move the needle to shift that belief, to overcome that objection, right? And so once you build that, and then you have the human connection video that sells them on you, and then you have the rest of that trust ecosystem that does the heavy lifting of shifting beliefs, dissolving objections, making them feel like, okay, there's nothing else. Like, this is it. And I'm so excited to reach out. Like, I feel her depth. I feel the level of her work. Like, she is a high caliber person. I want to be in her orbit. So the reality is, like, when you have the right pieces of content, you do not need a million pieces of content. You need the right pieces of content with the right stories in the right places to the right people, in front of the right people, to shift beliefs faster than 6 months, 12 months of posting spaghetti on the wall. And so once you have the human connection video, the belief shifting assets placed around them with the right stories, then what we want to do is place a retargeting engine on the back end of that. And what that means is, like, you also need to make sure that the right person, the people who are already kind of raising their hands and showing interest, are seeing this over and over and over again without you needing to rely on the algorithm. So it's basically you post once, but you resurface over and over again. And the outcome, like, when this works, they watch your content, they watch these specific trust assets, and they're ready to book. You know, they might watch a video. I had a client whose human connection video, somebody watched it cold, and right away they commented, like, how do I get in touch with you? I know I want to work with you. Like, it's a yes for me. Like, how can we connect? And they did that through, DMing her or actually responding to her post. And so you don't have to tap dance. You don't have to point at things. You don't have to chase ghosts. You don't have to spend 45 minutes educating somebody on a call who was never going to buy anyway. In fact, the whole goal is to shift away from calls, because nobody wants calls. You don't want to do the calls. Your prospect doesn't want to do the calls. They might want to just have a connection point with you that you could do over the DMs. You can do over a voice note. They just want to, like, okay, you're for real, right? That might happen. That happens to me all the time. But I can count in, like, one hand how many I wouldn't even call them sales calls. They were just, like, right fit calls. Like, hey, I just want to have, like, one personal touch point with you before I join your program. I was like, sure. Yeah, let's hop on a 10-minute call. No worries. So instead of convincing and doing all of that heavy lifting, I mean, a sales call becomes just a formality. You are literally just accepting and attracting the right caliber premium clients that are coming to you absolutely pre-sold. This is the system that I teach and I work with very, very closely with my clients inside of pre-sold. So if you're curious to learn more, just check the link below in the video, and I'll see you in the next one.